Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 14th, 2019 meeting of the Salina City Commission meeting. I'd like to ask the city clerk if the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been provided.
Yes.
Thank you. In that case, call us to order and ask for a roll call.
Mayor Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Here.
Okay, if you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no awards and proclamations, so we can move into the Citizens Forum. It's an opportunity for anyone to come to the podium to address a subject that's not on the agenda. Just ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am. You can go first. Just give your name to the clerk, please.
Tanya Greer. I just wanted to let y'all know I went to the city manager's office to turn in a public record request on all the information while Capone and Starlet was in the animal shelter's care from August of 2018 to May of 2019. Monique at the animal shelter called me and told me that I had to get that request go through the courts. So Holly was the one that told me, she sent me the email from her office to get the public record request. So I'm just letting y'all know, I received a call from Monique today telling me that I would have to go through the municipal court, which leaves me a little confused because I ended up appealing from the municipal and then going over to district. So I'm going to go ahead and send their public request in again to the municipal court, and hopefully I can get the information that I'm requested through the animal shelter that way. So I plan on doing that on the 16th when I go to court that day. Now, the next thing I wanted to read to you all to kind of update you on, maybe educate what maybe a lot of y'all may not have known, is from the Federal Housing Equal Opportunity Department. And it is through HUD. And it is the question in number 11. And my vision's still pretty poor, so I have to really kind of look silly looking. But anyway, the question is, what if I live in a city or county that has a ban on certain breeds of dog? HUD states that breed, size, and weight limitations cannot be applied to assistance animals. A housing provider must look to see if the specific assistance animal in question poses a threat to other residents. One court had found that if the county ordinance were enforced, it would violate the FHA by permitting a discriminatory housing practice. I have to make it a little bigger. The court in that case actually found that the FHA preempted or took precedence authority over the ordinance that banned the particular breed of dog. While HUD does not specifically state anything about local breed bans, it does provide in its notice to housing providers that breed limitations cannot be applied to assistance animals. And that's FHEO notice, FHEO 2013-01. Note the assistance animals are only allowed in housing, and a banned breed may not be taken to places of public accommodation like service animals are, and that is for public restaurants, grocery stores, anywhere in public. They are meant solely for dwelling and travel purposes. And not only I never had an emotional issue prior to August 11th, when an incident happened that caused my dogs to be removed and me left alone without sight. But I am legally blind. My doctor letter from Colorado stated that my perception in the left eye was only light perception, 2400 in the right eye. So when this all happened, not only did I need them, was I affected emotionally for having them in the shelter for 8 months and then him taken away again, but I also needed them for my eyes, my ears, my safety, my security, and they performed a lot and did a lot for me. They were my family, the ones I talked to every day. So I just wanted to educate you all on that. And I just had a quick question. Is it true that animal shelter cannot give me any information until I do the public record that I was referred to by Holly at the city manager's office, that I can get the public records from them? I have to go through municipal court to have that done. Are you guys?
I know that I don't know the answer, and I can only turn to my right to see if the city attorney or city manager would happen to know.
If it relates to the court cases, then yes, it would need to come from the applicable court.
Okay, but wouldn't it be the district court, not the municipal court?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand your request well enough to answer your question, but if you're looking for court documents, then yes, it would need to come from the court. Is that
Okay.
what you're wanting?
Well, yeah, I want to know all the information on what happened to Capone, who and what and why and when and where and so forth.
Okay.
So,
There are some records that the animal shelter would have, but it really depends on what it is you're trying to get.
yeah, I kind of want to know everything, like who ordered him to be put down, why he was ordered unadoptable, why, when they knew that dog very well, and
But
very,
The only thing that would be produced is a record that already exists. So a lot of what you just described is not a record that would be something to be produced.
right, but they could show me who did the behavioral test on him that deemed him unadoptable, correct?
I'd have to see what records they have, but
Okay, all right, and the DNAs that they took on both the dogs, which I had one done on Starlet, so I'm not able to do one on Capone because he obviously is ashes now. So, anyway, I'm finished.
All right, thank you for coming forward. Anyone else? If not, we will move to public hearings.
Item 5.1, public hearing on naming rights for the Salina Municipal Golf Course. Item 5.1A, resolution number 19-7753, naming the future pavilion at the Salina Municipal Golf Course, 2500 East Crawford as Joe Milbrat Pavilion.
Mr. Cotton, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the commission. Yes, this is for Resolution 19-7753, resolution naming the future pavilion the Joe Milbrat Pavilion. On December 20th, 2014, Joe Milbrat passed away. Joe was a longtime golfer at the Muni, and when he passed, he left a donation to the First Tee chapter of Salina. Mr. Milbrat wanted his gift to help construct a facility that would benefit the youth golf community, the Men's Association, and the general public. The proposed project that has come out of this is a pavilion that will be funded through part of Joe Milbrat's donation, funds raised by the Men's Association, and budgeted funds through the Muni budget for this project. The First Tee chapter and the Men's Association, the Parks and Recreation staff would like to name the pavilion after Mr. Milbrat. The cost of the pavilion will be paid for with a $20,000 donation from the Men's Association, $65,000 from the First Tee Association, which is part of the Joe Milbrat donation, and $45,000 from the Buildings and Facilities 2019 approved sub-CIP account. This is step 4, naming step 4. The City Commission shall conduct a public hearing and consider the naming initiative for a qualified municipal facility within 30 calendar days of receiving a recommendation from a related board or from receipt of the naming initiative if no related board exists. Notice of the public hearing shall be published not less than 7 calendar days in advance of the scheduled public hearing date. Upon consideration, the City Commission shall review the city clerk's verification as to compliance with the naming initiative and naming petition with these guidelines, review the merits of the naming initiative and supporting documentation as provided, including a review of the existing name and any applicable history or other information deemed pertinent to the request, and take action regarding the municipal facility naming initiative, including but not limited to approval, denial, amendment of the request, postponement of action for further consideration, or sending the initiative back to the related board for further discussion. Staff is not seeking any financial approval at this time. And city staff would request that the commission approve resolution number 19-7753, naming the future pavilion the Joe Milbrat Pavilion.
Any questions?
No, mine's more of a comment, and if Heather Hemme is watching today, I would just like to thank her for reaching out several months ago to follow up on Mr. Milbrat's memorial donation, and thank her and their family for their generosity.
Listen. My question is just a little, has nothing to do with my thoughts on this. Is the $65,000 from the First Tee Association entirely from his donation, or his donation makes up part of that $65,000? Just wasn't sure the way it was worded.
It's $65,000 from the First Tee Association, sir.
So his is part of that 60? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Are there any comments or questions from the public?
Mike Hargrave, manager at the Municipal Golf Course. I am reading a statement from Ms. Hemme, who was unable to attend today but wanted to attend. So she reached out to me and let me know that she was unable to attend but wanted to make a public statement. And so this comes from Heather Hemme, who is Joe Milbrat's granddaughter. The Municipal Golf Course was an important part of my grandfather's life for many years. He gained lifelong friendships that he cherished. He would be proud to have such an important place to be named after him. He would share golf stories and lessons with anyone that listened. His legacy will live on through each laugh and skill taught on the green.
Thank you. That's nice. Good afternoon.
Salina, this is a bigger issue than just a local issue. I'm a veteran. I served in 64, 5, and 6, and I drive down the road. And why are we picking just certain people? I'm not denying that maybe a certain people needs to be recognized. I think we all need to be recognized. Because I drive down the highway and you'll see memorial to this certain soldier, this certain soldier. We all went. So we shouldn't be specifically picking out one person. I'm not against it. But at the same time, you're just honoring certain people. Because I'm a vet. And I tell you what, we all went. So we all people, whether you're a veteran, you're a civil servant, you're a private individual, we shouldn't be just picking a certain person. You've got to separate the difference here. And I don't think that's right to honor just certain people. Because I'm coming from the military part of it. We all went, we all paid. Some of us didn't get to come home and we didn't get honored. You're causing problems. Why should I honor you? Why should I honor you? We honor all of us. You better talk to some of us vets, the hell we went through. And we're not getting any respect. I understand the emotion part of it from some people. But we're separating people. We're all the same. I've seen corporations, they want to change their name. They took a vote of the membership. The membership says, no, let's leave the name as it is. And I'll give you the name of the corporation. Ask DS&O if they didn't try to change their corporate name. People says, no, leave it as it is. Honor everybody. If you're going to put one name up there, put his name up there. Put his name up there. All of us. We're going to have to learn to do this, or we're not going to exist. The year is 2050. I wrote the obituary for this country.
you can come back up to the,
I just have a question. I know my father was a vet, earned the Purple Heart. He served in the Vietnam War, the Harvest Moon 7th Platoon. And I do appreciate what Sunset Park has done for all the military, and they have been recognized. So if this gentleman over here has not got his name on that Sunset Park memorial, I highly suggest he requests that his name be placed on there if he served for our country. And then I suggest all those other militaries that might have been, not recognized, not because of our city not recognizing, that's a lot of people, because a lot of people have served. But to remember that we have memorials set up for all these men that served for us. So I don't think that we're particularly picking out just one, because, it's a long list, but they are recognized. And if he feels like he is not, I feel like we highly need to maybe get another park and set another memorial and put all those in there as well. My dad earned the Purple Heart, so very proud of our military, whether they've been recognized or placed on a stone or whatnot. So I appreciate you for your services, sir. Okay.
thank you. Guess that's instant networking as far as opportunities, and we probably have enough space here to recognize a whole lot of folks in town. Any other comments? In that case, we'll close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for questions, comments, or action.
Mr. Mayor, I played golf with Joe. I knew Joe out there for quite a few years at the Municipal Golf Course, so it's my pleasure to make a motion that we approve Resolution 19-7753, naming the future pavilion the Joe Milbrat Pavilion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 19-7753. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And it's nice when we do have people who've been part of this community who do leave a legacy gift that someone else can benefit from. Thank you. The consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the regular meeting minutes of October 7th, 2019, and item 6.2, approve the special meeting minutes of October 8th, 2019.
Is there either of these minutes that a commissioner would like removed from the consent agenda? If not, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor Davis, I move that we approve the consent agenda, items 6.1 and 6.2 as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no one offering any comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Move on to administration.
Item 7.1, second reading, ordinance number 19-11017, changing the name of a street in the Interstate District southwest of I-70 addition from Coachlight Lane to Bhakta Court.
Okay, this was approved on first reading 1 week ago, and there have been no comments. Any questions, comments from the commissioners now? Any questions, comments from the public? Okay, is there any action to be taken on this?
Mayor Davis, I move we approve on second reading ordinance number 19-11017, changing the name of a street in the Interstate District southwest of I-70 addition from Coachlight Lane to Bhakta Court.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? None. Ask the vote by roll call.
Commissioner Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Hodges?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoppick?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. 7.2.
Item 7.2, approval of the project budget and resource allocation for the Smedley Family Surgical Center.
Mr. Cotton.
Good afternoon again. Yes, this is the approval of naming step 5 in the Smedley Family Surgical Center and approval of the project budget and resource allocation. In July of 2018, the Animal Control and Shelter Study performed by the National Care and Control Association, NACA, specifically recommended establishing a pre-surgery and full recovery area for monitoring animals with injury and under anesthesia, as well as relocating the current surgical suite to avoid 2 external doors and possible cross-contamination. As a result of this recommendation, staff looked at repurposing an underutilized storage facility located next to the main building as a possible spay and neuter surgical center, which was supported by NACA as a suitable alternative site to the existing area used for surgery. Steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the naming rights process have been complete. Step 5 entails approval of the sign plaque design, which was submitted as part of Step 4, and laying out the funding plan and use of staff resources. A detailed budget that splits out the city-performed work and the items that will be completed by outside contractors is attached. The scope of the project will entail adding an HVAC system, framing out the interior walls, installing drywall, doors, windows, new cabinets and tables, and a new exterior facade for the facility that identifies it as a surgical center. This project will be fully funded from the Animal Services donation account where the Smedley Family Trust funds were deposited. With a 5% contingency, the cost to complete this project will be approximately $51,904.63. This project will be accomplished by a combination of city staff and through bidding out 3 portions of the work to subcontractors. The electrical, plumbing, and storefront portions have quotes attached for commission review. The Facility Operations Division will purchase supplies for the project with estimated costs of $27,296.48, and the contracted portion of the work will be approximately $17,494.94. If the contingency is not needed, the cost of the project will be an estimated $44,791.42. City staff has identified the following options for the City Commission consideration. Approve the submitted signage and plaque design and authorize the project budget and use of staff resources to complete the project as follows. Facade and signage, $3,400 to the sign house. Storefront entrance, glass services for $4,300 with a 5% contingency. Electrical services, Brule Electric for $5,570 with a 5% contingency. Material costs for facility operations in kind work, $27,296.48 with a 5% contingency. Staff recommends option number 1.
Thank you. Any questions?
I've got a few questions. Thank you. I'm not sure if I missed it. Are we not awarding a plumbing estimate or a plumbing bid at this time?
Did I overlook that? I'm sorry, I overlooked that. Yes, ma'am. Plumbing in the amount of $4,224.94 with Summit Plumbing.
Okay, and I'll return to that in just a second. Who's going to be our general contractor on the?
Troy Reiner.
Okay, and Mr. Reiner, you have a current general contractor's license? Okay. Do we have some examples, and I'm kind of looking at both Mr. Scragg and Mr. Cotton, examples of other projects that where we've had our own in-house general contractor to facilitate and to oversee and implement design?
To my knowledge, Troy is the only employee we have as a general contractor that has the skill set or the licensing to do that.
Okay, so this would pretty much be the first one?
Well, in this format, I mean, as part of the work that he does on a regular basis, he's performing repair and maintenance work for the city.
Gotcha. And I had emailed you and Mr. Wood earlier today just to inquire about any kind of bid specs or bidding documents that were prepared, because I just noticed a great deal of difference in terms of level of detail that was provided basically between the plumbers, the electrical, the door system, but we did not have like a published bid sheet or bid package that was available online. Is that correct?
Correct. Under item 3.1, under competitive bidding, written competitive bids or price quotations are encouraged for the purchase of any capital item or minor construction or repair contract. Normally, minimum of 3 bids should be solicited, which is what Troy did.
Gotcha. And I guess my question is, the rationale for proceeding under, going that direction with that would be based on the contracted portion of the work being under $20,000.
Yeah, ultimately, we were trying to save money by doing what we could in-house and then,
Right.
and then getting competitive bids for the portions that we couldn't do, and each of those were under 20,000.
Right, and I get that, but in actual fact, the whole scope of the project with contingency is close to 52,000, not under 20,000.
Which is why it's before you for action.
Right, but at the same time, we haven't had bid sheets, we don't have any kind of a bid thing available, so it's, I mean, I don't know about the other commissioners, but I've got some estimates here that literally go into the number of fixtures, the number of outlets, number of switches, and there are other bids that simply, you know, a number on a page, and I appreciate you having sent the electrical diagram, but, you know, when I look at this electrical, I mean, does it call out the number of outlets and what types of fixtures or switches? I mean, I'm just not, I feel like I'm being asked to compare apples and oranges on these bids because there's nothing to compare it to.
The contractors that were solicited to come out, came out and did a site visit. The electrical drawing does show symbols for outlets, switches, light fixtures. Specs and expectations were verbally talked to or relayed to the contractors on
Okay,
site.
so we have specific expectations in terms of, say, like the illumination for the surgical area, which is obviously important.
Yes.
Do we have those written down anywhere?
No, they're 2x4 LED surface mount.
Okay.
The surgical center itself, I believe, has, when they're performing surgery, its own light for the surgery itself. It doesn't rely upon the ceiling light.
Okay. Okay. It's just, I don't know, it's just a little bit difficult, like I said, to tell whether or not we're comparing things across the bids. The other thing is, I noticed that the Summit bid is actually listed here within the blue sheet as $42,2494. But if we take a closer look at their bid, that did include sales tax, which some of the other bid submitters did not, so that would actually take it down another $340 then?
Yes, that is correct. They would have to have we'd have to submit them a sales tax exempt certificate to
Okay,
remove
so the amount to Summit, would we be approving would be actually $38.85?
that. Yes, that'd be correct.
Okay. And then I did have a question regarding one of these bids, and it was for Systems 4, because the date on their bid is December 12th, 2018. And I just didn't know, I thought maybe you could speak to that about why, if that was something that we had received prior, or if they,
Yeah, Systems 4 is actually one of the first companies that we called out to look at this early on.
okay, and so even though this bid is like 10 months old, it's still, we've confirmed that it's still the bid. And I wondered a little bit too, if the scope of work had changed since December. I'm not a plumber, and I don't know, you know, all the things, but this bid said that it included like boring and stuff, and I noticed that elsewhere it said that like city staff was going to be taking care of like the concrete removal and the concrete putting back. And I don't know if the boring is something that's, if that's boring or if that's something completely different.
Well, yes, it is. I did try to reach out to Tom with Systems 4 a couple of times to see if I could get them to revisit time did not allow for me to get that solicited and changed before blue sheet was due.
If someone else has some questions, I want to look over and make sure I've gotten my questions answered.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Getting back to the dates, I noticed Systems 4, like it says, dated December at the bottom of their bid price. It says it's good for 30 days. Summit Plumbing was dated 8/28 and had a 30-day price guarantee. So again, we're outside of that. I had a little bit of problem, like Commissioner Hodges did, trying to compare. I guess my question is, what are our safeguards that, like on Brule Electric, they have everything in there? Because when I look at Precision's and I look at Accurate has some, Precision went into much more detail. I did notice that Brule provide and install 7 LED ceiling lights, but the other two have 8. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that our drawing actually shows 7.
But then I think it kind of begs the question, I mean, did Precision or did, what was the other one,
Accurate.
I mean, did they see something that they recognized where even though maybe we called out for 7, that 8 might be, you know, a good upgrade to make while they were doing it?
Possibly, but nothing that they relayed to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
and Brule's doesn't address the number of plugs. If you look at Precision, they had 23 regular and then 4 GFI. Accurate had just 30 straight. So again, I just want to make sure we're getting what we're supposed to, and it's hard for me to tell, mainly in the electrical. And also, it does appear that there's some other work that maybe is concrete cutting and patching on the electrical side and digging of trenches, all that going to be required from them, or is that something the city will do?
That's something that'd be
Okay,
performed by the
because I
city.
just saw it sit in there, did not include those, so that's what I was asking, so.
In efforts, again, to save money on the project, we were going to try to perform as much as we could in-house.
Commissioners, the plan that you have in the packet just has the walls and the doors. There is another set of plans that were shared with the electrical bidders
Sure.
that shows the outlet locations, switch locations, and light locations.
Did request that, but that's what I got.
Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, these mean different things.
Just to clarify for me, then, it is Summit that is the plumbing contractor recommended by the staff? It's left out of
Yeah,
the
they were-
recommended actions? Is that-
They were
is it
low
bidder?
bid to begin with, and with the sales tax being deducted, they'll be lower. So they remain the low bidder in both instances.
And that, some of these bids have sales tax included and some don't. Is it customary to include it or not include it for a bid of this type?
Typically, it wouldn't be included, and we can provide them the sales tax exemption to make sure that we don't pay it, or
That's
that
gonna be my
they get the
follow-up
sales tax
question.
exemption.
Okay. And on the Precision, they mentioned framing will need to be done by others. Is that,
That'd be us.
all right, and so that's not something that was included in any of the others? Any more questions? Well, we can come back, just, I think I'm just going to ask for comments or questions from the public, and don't go too far, though. All right, any questions, comments, concerns from the public? Well, less time than I thought I'd get to.
You know me, I can always take up time. I did have a question. I'm assuming that it's a bid from Glass Services, but there wasn't any kind of an identifier on it. It's on page 3 of the bids that we received. And it had a note a budget of $4,300. And I guess my question is, was that direction that they received, that the budget needed to be $4,300, or is that their bid, that's what it's going to cost?
Yeah, I don't know. Staff may be able to clarify.
I didn't know if we had given them specific marks or specific figures of, what we were trying to get them to within.
No, I solicited and talked with Mike at Glass Services and explained to him, just like I did the other bidders, onto the size and dimension of the opening. And this is how he submitted his bid.
So when he says budget, that's actually his bid amount of 4,300?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just caught up to that page. That's the only dollar amount reported on that page, so it appears to be their bid.
On the page just preceding that page, for access control systems, labor to install windows and frames was not included. Is the city providing the labor to?
No. I elected that we would not want to take on storefront specialty glass installation and door operation. So access controls bid would be the $3,850 plus the $2,000 labor.
Okay, so there's a difference between service call and 2 men and labor to install windows and frames? I guess let me rephrase, what is the difference between those two?
I can't answer to that. It
Because
could
one of
be-
them's got a nice price, it's free, well, not included, don't tell them what that price is. It could be more. Do you happen to? No, I was just,
Right. I don't know that I can describe the difference between the two either. It appears that they're charging $2,000 for the service call and the 2 men to do the work. Again, they're the high bidder, so
Right.
this bid wouldn't actually be the one that we're relying on.
well, just hearing the other commissioners' comments, I'm just wondering if certain uniform duties, action supplies were requested of the potential bidders ahead of time, or if we just asked them to, well, show us how you do the job.
Well,
Right.
and I don't know that it's directly the question that Commissioner Hodges asked earlier, but our purchasing policy provides for purchases under $20,000, operational purchases, routine purchases, to solicit quotes, but does not provide the level of formality that we have to have engineered stamp plans designed to that level of detail. So this was approached in similar fashion to many of those types of purchases, whether it's calling for concrete, for a curb and gutter repair, or whatever the case may be. And so this was done this way in hopes of taking advantage of the skill sets that our staff had, saving money, and then the areas of work that we weren't up for, conducting a bid process like we would do any other. It's incumbent on staff and the contractor to clearly communicate what's expected and kind of assess the scope of work to ensure that, number one, we're getting competitive bids on the front end, and then on the back end, we have enough of a meeting of the minds that we know that we got the product that we agreed to. Given the design for electrical, the plumbing involves a sink, and the door involves framing in an existing door opening. I think staff felt that they were able to communicate that sufficiently to the contractors to get an accurate bid on the front end, and then hold them accountable on the back end.
And I guess, if I was understanding Commissioner Hodges, and the city employee is acting as a general contractor for this. So in that regard, his total project is 51,000, I forget the number, but it's obviously well over the 20,000. So these are his subcontractors. So as far as the total project, the amount would be high enough that we would normally go through that detail?
Well, the purchasing policy provides for routine purchases and soliciting quotations being encouraged for capital items, minor construction or repair contracts, and says that normally a minimum of 3 bids should be solicited. It doesn't go so far as to say in what detail that solicitation needs to occur. It also does provide that you as the city commission can provide for, trying to find the wording, you can authorize except as otherwise authorized by you, it shall be sealed bids, but in this bid scenario, this would be your mechanism of authorizing, kind of farming this out in the interest of saving both preparation expenses as well as overall construction expenses. If this were to be done as a sealed bid and a full-blown bid, then we'd have design expenses on the front end, we'd have administration expenses. I don't know that we'd realize a cost savings ultimately in terms of dollars saved for the city. In terms of the deliverable, I think we have sufficient information about what was requested, what's been bid, that we can get the deliverable that we are intending to purchase.
I guess I would just probably, and I guess you can probably tell from my earlier emails to you, I just guess I feel very differently about that, in that I understand that we're trying to save money, and I understand that we all think we know what we're talking about, but in the event that one of these contractors underperforms as opposed to what we think we're getting, I mean, I would sure feel a lot better being able to hold up a thing and say, hey, look, this is everything you were supposed to do. You were supposed to do this, 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 and this, and it's not completed. And I think it would be really, it would be great for staff to have that material to be able to point to it and say, hey, you signed off on this. This was our expectation. Here's where we were going with this. And, I understand that it takes some time and it's going to incur some expense to go to that level of detail. But I think when you look across the governing body, when we all have, questions about what is included, what isn't included, why do some do tax? Why are some bids older than others? I mean, I think it kind of speaks to the fact that we have a process in place, because we need to have the process in place. And at this point, until, we can see some degree of detail about our expectations for completion of this, I want this surgical center to go through, and I wish that it were done, 6 months ago or a year ago when the NACO report came out. But I also want to end up with a really quality product that's fair to all the people and the businesses that submitted bids, and know that everybody was bidding for the same thing, and that Precision and Accurate and Brule didn't have any, different interpretations of a walkthrough.
Yeah, I know if this was on my personal residence, I would be going back to some of the bidders, because I can't compare, as Commissioner Hodges says, apples to apples when we're looking at, one lists 2 exterior wall packs. I don't see any on the other. 2 of them have, 8 LED paneled lights. One has 7. One lists GFIs. So I guess at this time, I'm going to have a hard time. I'm like you, I really want this to happen, but I, from a good conscious standpoint, cannot approve this not knowing exactly that we're getting what we want from some of them, because it's just not listed.
Just a second. Any other comments right now?
I was going to just say, Mayor, we could table this item and have the staff bring us more specific information. I think it's isn't that it does delay the project being completed, and I too am not, I'd like to see it go forth, but if there's a high level of discomfort in the presentation, why not get clarification?
Is the 30-day
We've got varying-
Industry standard for the length of
Yeah,
the bid?
among the things to verify, that would be one of the things that staff would need to verify, is that they would still, the details of the bid and that they would still honor the bid price.
So this would have to be, when we reevaluate, if we went that route, we'd have to do it within 30 days of receiving the,
I
bids,
think
I
at
would
this
say.
point, if you would like, staff is contacting the vendors about a number of things, and they can verify whether they'll continue to honor the bid as well.
all right.
You know, even if it's just that looks like a checklist that they can all initial or sign off on, that everything that we want to see included is included in that bid. I mean, and if they're willing to honor their previous costs, I think Commissioner Ryan has a good solution.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's like glass services. It's not even on a letterhead. It's not signed by, I'm not even sure who is authorizing the $4,300 budget.
And-
I have a little,
And I appreciate your concern. I think that the government process is very formal. Getting solicitations like this is probably more in keeping with what they do on a regular basis and less formal. And formality often brings with it cost, but we can proceed accordingly.
Well, I'm all for informality and the savings of costs, but the way this is written, I can't quite even tell how I would want to phrase making a resolution, since 1 and 2 seem to be melded together and the plumbing piece is left out. So I think there could have been a little more diligence in the presentation.
do we need a motion to, what'd you say, table this? or
Table
bring
the
it-
item, can we,
What
what would be
would be the
the
appropriate
nice
thing to
way to
do?
do that, yeah.
Yeah, just that small technical point on the distinction between tabling, which would assume that you would take it back up later in this meeting as opposed to postponing it to
Okay,
a certain date. That's the only minor distinction in terms of what I gather you want to do.
And we postpone to a date certain, what would be reasonable?
2 weeks?
Veterans Day is November 11th, that's a
Would
month
2 weeks
out.
be enough? I mean, the bidders have the plans.
Yeah,
If
we're
we
not
could-
asking them to rebid it, we're just asking them to
But-
clarify their bid.
You can essentially plan on a lost week just to get the packet together. So 2 weeks turns into a week at that point. I'd either suggest November 4th or November 18th.
Is that okay with staff? I mean, I'm going to look at you to see if that's something that is doable. Okay.
Okay.
I guess if it's okay with staff's boss, it's okay with them.
We need a motion for such.
Somewhat,
It'd
yeah.
be the fourth one, with November 4th as your date.
Yes. I'll take a swing. Mayor Davis, I move that we postpone consideration of authorization of the funding plan and use of staff resources to complete the project to November 4th, 2019, at the regular city commission meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone further consideration of this item until our November 4th, 2019 regular meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And before we move forward, I did want you to,
Oh, me?
right, because you may still give us some wisdom that we can use on
Well,
November 4th.
Debbie kind of informed me that, you have to be certified, licensed and stuff. And I was just going to suggest once again, for example, I had a cousin that was incarcerated for 6 months. I just didn't know if they had a work release program that they could start and offer them to go out and help, like volunteers would, like with the concrete type work, those kind of things, the basics that they could save on expenses. It was just this, suggestion.
I've had that suggestion brought to me several times in the last month or two.
From me?
Well, not from you, no. But I don't know what our official policy is, but it's certainly a source of labor with mutual benefits that we might be able to look into.
Right.
Thank you. We are ready for 7.3.
Item 7.3, authorize the mayor and city manager to jointly sign the attached letter communicating to the United States Department of Transportation the City of Salina's preferred airline selection under the Essential Air Service Program.
This is great.
Mayor and Commissioners, as I believe you're aware, the Essential Air Service Program by the United States Department of Transportation is a application and approval process that occurs on a regular basis. We receive our air service in Salina through the EAS program. Tim Rogers, the executive director of the airport, administers the airport and is kind of our resource in that regard. He's provided you background information about the selection process as well as a recommendation for the airline selection that's before you today. SkyWest is our current provider. Tim, I think, will be speaking to the quality of their service and their enplanements and what we've seen under their performance recently. And as is noteworthy, this is for a 3-year period rather than a 2-year period, and SkyWest was the only respondent in this cycle. But I think Tim has some remarks for you and can answer any questions about their performance, but I think we have been very pleased with their most recent round of service. So.
Mr. Rogers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Again, the summary was, that this is the process that the U.S. Department of Transportation goes through to select for a community that's eligible for the Essential Air Service Subsidy Program. This is the process that the U.S. DOT goes through. This process occurred about 2 years ago at this time, 2000, and 2 years ago, and we are out ahead of, the renewal that's end of March and renewal for April 1. The U.S. DOT would like to get the contract renewed. So notice of proposals went out to really a long list of interested parties and interested air carriers. SkyWest was the only proposer. It's been kind of the pattern in other communities where SkyWest has been providing excellent regional service with United Airlines, branded as United Airlines, that really lately nobody's been bidding against SkyWest or proposing against SkyWest. This is a contract that is between the U.S. DOT and the air carrier, in this case SkyWest. The dollars flow directly from the U.S. DOT to the airline, and there are no dollars that pass through the community. But the U.S. DOT would like to have community comments as far as, and by legislation by the elected officials of the community. And staff of the city, the airport authority, county chamber, and the Salina Economic Development Organization, in addition to K-State Polytechnic, took a look at the proposal submitted by SkyWest and found it to be meeting expectations of the community as far as going forward. The 3 years is very good news. It provides SkyWest the ability to do some additional planning and stability in the community. They can look at adjustments with the schedule, can look at maybe taking the Chicago flight from a afternoon departure to an early morning departure. And this also then relates back in and flows into the recent attracting and opening up of the One Vision Aviation at the Salina Regional Airport. SkyWest is a customer of One Vision. In fact, SkyWest completed an audit at the SkyWest facility today, and that enables SkyWest to flow more aircraft through Salina for short-term, medium-term, and long-term maintenance on the aircraft. I was in the hangar this afternoon and meeting with some other airline representatives that were there in the hangar, and that hangar is getting full. It is getting full of airplanes and people. There are now 7 aircraft in the hangar undergoing heavy maintenance checks. There's 4 different airlines represented in the hangar right now, and so things are progressing very well. SkyWest will rely upon One Vision for what would be aircraft on the ground, or AOG, problems with aircraft on the ground, overnight aircraft, and it means better reliability will lead to greater reliability when it comes to greater ability to take care of maintenance problems of SkyWest aircraft on the apron here at Salina, if the need arises. Stand and for questions that Mr. Mayor, that you may have, or your colleagues, commissioners and colleagues may have.
And if I could, I'd just add to that. Tim mentioned there's no cost to the city in terms of this action. And the action that we are actually being asked to take is to authorize the mayor and myself to jointly sign a letter communicating our support for SkyWest application. You could do that today. You could postpone consideration of that to a date certain. You could choose not to authorize it and not to jointly sign that document. Or you could request some type of change in form or format.
Oh, start from the left this time. Any question?
Was the last contract for 3 years also?
No, it was a two-year contract, so expiring here in 2020. We went through the process in 2017. The contract was effective on 2018 through 2020, and then we'll go out another, go ahead.
So 3 is an improvement, but would 5 have been better, or how does the length?
Well,
get
legislatively, actually, 5 is not permitted by the legislation, but, so 3's kind of what's been, 3 exceeds what's normally done.
Okay.
And may add that the dollar amount, the subsidy amount, is actually less than other communities in Kansas and Nebraska. That's recently been proposed by SkyWest. So and it seems a little bit higher than the previous 2 years at $3 million per year, $2,999,000 basically. But they're also hedging fuel for 3 years through the subsidy, increased maintenance costs, increased fees, salaries for pilots, and pilot retention, recruitment and retention. So it is a bit higher than the previous 2 years, but it's a 3-year commitment.
Thank you.
Just for our information, can you tell us a little bit about where we've been with our passenger over the last 2 years, where you see that going, and also as far as meeting our schedules, being on time and stuff, where are we at on all that, Tim?
Well, first on passenger enplanements, we're on a pace to hit 20,000 passenger enplanements for the calendar year, and that the community has not seen that level of use of air service in the community since the late 1970s. And so this has, again, it's a new era in scheduled air service. Going back to the nonstop flights from Great Lakes to Denver, they were barely hitting 8,500. Dependability and reliability, it is measured by the U.S. DOT, and we do monitor that on a monthly basis. And actually, that's going into kind of a dashboard report with the Airport Authority Board effective last month, and it'll be here in coming months. And SkyWest ranks out for this community about 98% reliability, and that's for everything other than the weather, the items that can't be controlled. But this is completion. So, yes, there are days when the flights get delayed, and just recently, late last week, there was a tough day when they couldn't, because of the snowstorm in Denver, the Chicago flight landed, they couldn't get released to get to Denver because of the snowstorm there. That flight was about 4 hours late, but it was completed. It's a misconception if you ever hear that, well, they didn't complete the flight because there were not enough passengers. With the boardings we have, there's more than enough passengers, and so that is not a reason why a flight gets canceled. A flight can be canceled for mechanical reasons. The airline cannot control that, and weather the airline cannot control. But the airline, both United and SkyWest, have every incentive to complete the flight, because once you get a crew and an airplane out of position, the cascading effect for the rest of the schedule, and you got to keep in mind, SkyWest operates a fleet of about 400 aircraft, and they are a large air carrier in their own right, and it will affect the United schedule, so the cascade effect is dramatic when it comes to getting an airplane out of position and a crew out of position. So they are, the reliability is there, the dependability is there, unlike any other carrier serving the community in decades.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Good news.
Commissioner Hodges.
Any sense on when we'll get a decision from the Department of Transportation? Since we're submitting early, will they respond early, or are we still going to have to wait till the spring to hear back?
No, they will respond early. That is the intent, to get the request for proposals out early. And with the community comments coming in, USDOT expect about 30 days probably for them then to draft the new order selecting SkyWest Airlines. And that would be, has to go through about 3 to 4 different levels of approval within the USDOT. I would expect by early December that selection order would go out. Then that allows SkyWest to continue to do some planning for the service at Salina. The fine tuning and some of the adjustments in schedule, getting the morning Chicago flight to a morning flight. Have 2 overnight aircraft that would rotate in and out of One Vision, a great opportunity, and the chance for additional SkyWest aircraft to flow through Salina to do for maintenance at One Vision, and then that brings up other possibilities. What other options are available for Salina if an aircraft is flowing through Salina from another hub?
Thank you.
Well, seats were quite full last weekend.
Yes, they were.
Very nice to see. Okay, don't go too far. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor Davis, I move we authorize the mayor and the city manager to jointly sign the attached letter communicating to the United States Department of Transportation the City of Salina's preferred airline selection under the Essential Air Service Program.
Second.
That sounded like a rousing vote. This does not actually have an action number, so I'll just read the whole thing. Been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor and city manager to jointly sign the attached letter communicating to the United States Department of Transportation the City of Salina's preferred airline selection under the Essential Air Service Program. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And thanks for the great work you're doing out there.
Well, just like to add, thank you for the partnership, because it is truly one of these projects that is a true community partnership. Without the support of the city, the county, the chamber, the Salina Economic Development Organization, this and the business community and the individuals that use it for business travel and personal travel, we would not have the success that we're having. And so this is one of those true success stories where Salina as a partnership have made something very good happen for the community and the region. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. I know a lot of folks from Wichita like coming up and taking the flight. Free parking. Takes them just an hour to get here, so it's really convenient. Let's move on to 7.4.
Item 7.4, landfill equipment. 7.4A, resolution number 19-7754, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for sale and purchase of equipment with Foley Equipment Company. And 7.4B, resolution number 19-7755, authorizing the purchase and installation of fire suppression systems on compactor and dozer equipment with Keller Fire and Safety.
Mayor, Commissioners, we are bringing you a couple of resolutions on relatively short notice. Unfortunately, we are here to have the mayor authorized to sign a contract to replace landfill compactor number 1841 with a used replacement 2004 Cat 826G compactor through Foley's Equipment here in Salina for an amount not to exceed $365,000. And we'll get into the details on the need to replace that in a moment. The other resolution that is different but related is 1977-55, authorizing the purchase and installation of Keller fire suppression systems on the replacement unit 1841 compactor, our other compactor, Unit 1842, and our bulldozer 1851 at the landfill in an amount not to exceed $31,878. The background on this replacement, trash compactor, Unit 1841, which is a 2005 Cat 826H, was rebuilt in 2015 when it had about 12,000 hours of operation. After that rebuild, we've put about 6,897 hours on the machine, and that has been since 2015. On April 11th, this spring, the trash compactor unit caught fire within the first 4 minutes of startup. Prior to starting the machine that morning, the operator had properly performed the preventive maintenance works and checks as part of their pre-operation inspection. Weather on that morning it was dry with a low of 32 degrees and a high of 46 degrees, with winds out of the west at sustained 22 miles per hour and gusting up to 41. Once the fire began, the operator immediately exited the vehicle and used a portable fire extinguisher in an attempt to extinguish the flames. However, the windy conditions caused the fire to spread rapidly, and ultimately the machine was a complete loss. In accordance with the KDHE approved facility operations plan, the City of Salina Municipal Solid Waste Landfill owns and operates 2 Cat 826H trash compactors. The compactors spread and compress waste in a deliberate pattern to achieve the desired compaction rate at approximately 1,000 pounds per cubic yard in order to maximize valuable landfill space and reduce the likelihood of cell voids that can lead to slope failure or other issues. Additionally, proper compaction extends the life of the landfill, improves safety by providing stable work surface, and reduces major nuisance factors such as rodents, odor, blowing debris, and surface water contamination. The attached table shows the history of the 4 fires that we've had since 2010 on landfill equipment. In 2010, a different Unit 1841 caught fire and was a complete loss. We bought a used equipment, another used one in 2010 for $247,103. 2 years later, the other compactor had the engine bay damaged by an engine compartment fire, and the cost to repair it was $134,301. In 2016, the replacement 1841 engine bay caught fire. It was a smaller fire, it was contained, but it did cost $85,000 to repair. And unfortunately, the fire this spring, the vehicle was totaled, or it was a complete loss, with an estimated cost of $350,000 to $400,000 to replace it. All of these fire events were investigated by Caterpillar and the Travelers Insurance Fire Investigator. Replacement Unit 1841 underwent CAT certified rebuild in 2015 for $315,000. Unit 1842 underwent a CAT certified rebuild last summer at a cost of $337,000. Both units had CAT certified agreements with the appropriate service levels at the appropriate intervals. Each of these fires has been determined to be an electrical fire and not the result of human error. Nonetheless, all landfill operators undergo equipment operation and maintenance training with their supervisor. Additionally, they are required to record on daily equipment sheets the pre-operation inspection, any addition of fluids, adjustments made to the equipment, and concerns they may have. Operators also clean out the engine, transmission, and differential belly pans prior to each 250-hour CAT certified servicing of the equipment. While weather has not been a cause of the fires, it has been a cause of the seriousness of the fires, with wind gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour on the days these fires occurred. Equipment fires, unfortunately, are not uncommon on landfill equipment, and there are other instances in landfills in Kansas that have caused significant damage to other equipment. Travelers Insurance assigned an insurable value of $369,452 on Unit 1841. The options for repair or replacement for the units are as follows. And we did, our staff are CAT certified servicing outfit and our insurance company have been searching for a comparable unit to replace the one that burned up. And we found two that were in the price range. One is relatively good condition, 2004 Cat 826G compactor with only 6,715 hours. It's in good condition. They were made aware of it before it actually went on the market, so that is the reason for rushing this sheet to you folks, is that they do plan to advertise that tomorrow. And that may or may not sell quickly, but compared to the other options on the market, we think that this is our best option. It's half the hours of the other option. It's in relatively good condition. It will be serviced and checked out by our Caterpillar dealer before we take ownership. It was owned by a municipality and has all the applicable service records. One of the options is to rebuild our current piece of equipment, and but it would take, in addition to the money to purchase it, salvage it, and rebuild it, it would take at least 10 weeks to rebuild it. We are currently operating with one compactor, and we're at risk of being out of compliance with our compaction requirements with KDHE, so purchasing a used equipment will get us in business a lot sooner. We did find another piece of equipment in Texas at a cost of $335,000, that piece of equipment has almost 16,000 hours, 2.5 times what the first one does. It's in fair condition, and as we've shown, we actually rebuild these at 12 to 15,000 hours is the normal rebuild, and this one hasn't been rebuilt yet, so it would be fairly risky to purchase that piece of used equipment. Our third option is to actually purchase the salvaged equipment that's been burnt and rebuild it. It would have completely rebuilt parts on it. We would have a warranty on those parts, but we would not have a warranty on all the other components on the compactor. There is some risk with this because the fire, an intense fire like that, may damage the frame or other components that would not be covered by warranty, so we're not recommending to do that. And with the financial situation that we're in right now, everyone is looking to make the best judgment moves. To purchase a new equipment at a cost of more than $800,000, we do not think is practical at this time. The other related item, as you can tell, fire does seem to be an issue, and they're very costly. We would like to install fire equipment, fire suppression equipment that has sensors and would automatically extinguish any fires that started in the engine or transmission compartments. They would be installed on our two compactors as well as our dozer. The combined cost of those is $31,878 from our low bid. We advertised this with several vendors and only had two submissions. Both met our requirements for this equipment, and one was about $20,000 cheaper than the other one. So we are definitely recommending Keller Fire and Equipment for the installation, purchase and installation of the fire suppression equipment. Conformance with the strategic plan, we do try to provide the best service for our citizens here in Salina, and it is part of the shared vision statement that the City Commission of Salina will be committed to providing the highest quality city services possible within our available resources. The proposed action is also consistent with the following goal for the city and the city's strategic plan. The city will provide the highest quality of services consistent with governing body direction, available resources, and staff commitment to quality. The fiscal note on the first action item is that the fire damaged equipment would be paid for with insurance funds, less our $2,500 deductible. We have 4 options for your consideration on the replacement of the compactor. The first one would be for the mayor to sign a contract for replacement of landfill compactor unit 1841 with the used replacement unit through Foley's Equipment here in Salina for an amount not to exceed $365,000. The second option would be to authorize the mayor to sign that contract with amendments. postpone consideration of that contract or vote to deny replacement of the compactor at this time. Staff is recommending option 1. As far as the fire suppression equipment, we are asking you to approve Resolution 19-755 authorizing the installation of Keller fire suppression systems on the new replacement 1841 compactor, or compactor 1842, and our dozer 1851 for an amount not to exceed $31,878. Your other option would be to approve Resolution 197755 with amendments, postpone action, or vote to deny the installation of fire suppression system and give us further guidance. We are also recommending option 1 for the fire suppression. We are here to stand for questions, and I have my experts on hand if you have anything too technical. So.
Well, we'll even that, we'll start left again.
I guess my question is since 2010, we've had 4 fires, a little over $500,000 in damage. Why is it taking us 9 years to figure out $31,000 would have prevented that much damage? I mean, why did we wait to now to decide to put fire suppression equipment in our machines when we knew that it would take care of this?
Well, we didn't know we had a problem or a recurring problem until it recurred. I guess that's after the first one. The first one experienced significant damage. The second one was not as big, and then we had another major one. But this is different. We're using that equipment in excess of the 40-hour work week out at the landfill, and we definitely think it's worth the investment now to try to protect it with fire suppression. I cannot answer why it wasn't done sooner.
And for what it's worth, the insurance company investigated, I believe, each fire, and I don't know that they reached a conclusion, found a cause, shared any results with us, but we were just as interested each time what was going on, but we couldn't find a pattern.
I guess as long as they kept writing policy, I thought we were on the up and up. Commissioner Hodges?
I'm, so we had a good sales tax collection month. Can we go for option number 4 and get a shiny new compactor at $800,000? No, I'm glad we're moving toward the fire suppression system. That seems like a really smart thing to do to protect our investment. But at some point, if you ever know that a new trash compactor is in the area, I just want to go and see what one looks like. My final question is, you said that these are used in excess of like 40 hours a week. So how many hours do we put on a machine every year? Like 2,200, something like that? So, okay. So we might have another like 7 years or so 6 years before we have to do an overhaul on this particular machine, on the new one that we're getting, well, the newish one. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Hoppick?
Just because it stuck out, I noticed that I have no clue what this is. We have 2 826Hs and we're buying an 826G. What's the difference?
The turbo.
Larry says that way, and I asked him the same thing. I think it's a year older, and I think it's just a different model number.
So G to H models is the G was a Tier 2 in emissions, and Tier 3 came when they had developed the H model. So in other words, they don't require DEF as the Tier 4 engine emission systems do now. And these things are absolutely identical except for color, stickers, and the emission system. And that is the only difference between them.
Just curious if it was a larger or smaller compactor or anything.
Same size.
Okay.
Same size.
Thank you.
So I just stay here?
Just in case.
And this would probably be for city staff, but by adding the fire suppression, is there a chance that will lower our insurance rates on those type of equipments?
That's a good question.
In speaking with Nancy Schusler, our risk management, and the folks at Travelers Insurance, they think it's a good investment, but they typically do not see that as giving us a break on our insurance premiums.
It may answer your prior question, Commissioner Hay.
And just to be clear, we are replacing a 2005 with a 2004. So this 2004 one is, you have like service records, I mean, it's got to be at least a year better than the one that it's replacing. But
It's a superior machine to the one that burnt up, unfortunately.
all right, and the bulk of this purchase price will be provided by the insurance payment?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so
We have a
the actual
$2,500
out-of-pocket is-
deductible, and the insurance should cover the remainder.
okay.
And Larry, while you're there, you can refresh my memory. How soon can they have it on site?
They had a date for November 19th to have it to Salina, go through it, inspect it, and then have it delivered to the landfill.
So about 4 weeks.
Right, and if we were one day to buy a new one, still when it gets 15,000 hours, it goes in for the overhaul. So at our rate of using it, I think it's 7.7 years or something, 7.5 years, we'd be up for another 350 to overhaul it.
Yes, for certified rebuild, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I also want to point out that with the fire suppression, this will not prevent fires on this equipment. We unfortunately have the reality that fires do occur regularly on this equipment. The purpose of the fire suppression is to prevent the operator from having to identify a fire, exit the vehicle, open up all the engine hatches, which we think contribute to the severity of damage. As soon as we open those engine hatches, 41-mile-an-hour gusts, fire spreads very, very quickly. But we do believe, and our experience, having spoken with other Kansas landfills who have used this equipment, that the fire suppression significantly reduces the damage that might occur.
I think the safety of our workers also, opening up those engines would not be my...
Jim, while you're there, you might speak to how recently we've started the certified rebuild and how we feel about that.
We have now built 2 pieces of equipment under certified rebuild? 4 pieces of equipment. Okay, 4 pieces of equipment. I think Mr. Mayor, you hit the nail on the head that, obviously staff would love to have brand-new pieces of equipment. With the amount of use that we put through the equipment, the fact that we own 2 of these pieces of equipment to maintain our compaction rate that we desire for our landfill, it just seems like the rebuild program is the best way to go. I really wish I could speak to why we had not came up with fire suppression before. We could only find 2 companies to even bid on this. Local companies said that they would be willing to try to manufacture something, but they would not be specific to the equipment. And the largest manufacturer of fire suppression does not yet make equipment for landfill compactors. So I think in part, at least from our experience, there are landfills that now have this equipment or have fire suppression on their equipment, but it was certainly new to us. In every case, we sought out advice from the fire inspector with Travelers and from the CAT folks who we really rely on as the subject matter experts. And it was fairly recently that we learned of this fire suppression, and as soon as we found out the relative cost to damage, we felt we had to bring that to you because it clearly is worth doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments from the public?
Oh, my. wearing the wrong hat. Northern Mountain Salina. Is Caterpillar the only one that makes this compaction equipment?
No, there are other brands.
Well, listen to what I've been hearing here. All 4 of the units are cats. And I've heard the word it was a mechanical error, and then another statement said, well, they're not for sure what it was. So does Caterpillar have a problem? Are they prone to this equipment or this issue? Because you can do inspection on these if you're going to rebuild them. I've done this on equipment. You use sonic testing, you'll find out if there's a defect even from the heat. Because when we break down a crane, that thing has to be inspected. And you do sonic testing, and it'll find a defect. Do you know this? Well, then why didn't we do it? So, is it a sale or replacement or rebuild? There's too many questions. I've heard sale. It says right here.
This is a
sale and repurchase. Now it's going to be replacement.
It's a purchase of a used vehicle, basically. Well, don't call them vehicles, I guess, but huge machine.
I'm hearing too many conflicts. I mean, you do need the equipment.
It's a purchase of a piece of equipment to replace one that was destroyed. So it's both. It's a purchase and a replacement.
Just to clarify, the cost of rebuilding the damaged unit costs more than the replacement unit that we're proposing you purchase.
But there'll be no warranty with the rebuild? Because they said they can't detect defects. You can detect defects. Use sonic testing. It's been done.
We're subject to what Caterpillar is willing to warranty to us.
Get another brand of equipment. Sorry, Cat.
I do want to say that's a very fair question to ask about the make and model. One of the first things is, obviously, we have a very reputable cat dealer here in Salina. Obviously, we prefer to purchase locally if possible. 2, there are a few other machines that are made that do compaction work. Bomag, I believe, Larry, is, and Sagan. And Aljon are both manufacturers of other equipment. We have to understand that while they say that the definitive cause of the fires is unknown, we know that they are component failures. One of the Kansas landfills that gave us information regarding their own equipment was another manufacturer. And the case can be made that it is not the type or the model, the make or the model of the equipment that is the problem. It's the fact that you are operating extremely large equipment that operates under high operating temperatures and pressures, and you're operating over multiple feet of material that can burn, and you're operating in every instance. If you notice, 3 of them were in April. Every instance is during a time when there are high winds. If Salina has 20-mile-an-hour winds, you could almost guarantee that Larry is experiencing 30 to 40-mile-an-hour winds at the landfill. A lot of the conditions that are present at our landfill exist in landfills across the country, and landfill fires are not something that is, that only happens to us. There are landfill fires in communities that surround Salina that were reported to us.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name's John Dorr. I'm the Fleet Superintendent. I'm a retired 22-year Army vet. Let me tell you, I've seen military systems that use fire suppression. No matter what you can do out with Larry's landfill, things get up there, turbos get hot, something gets in there and burns. The beauty is, it detects it. Depending on what agent you use, the good thing is, it's going to have a fire, but it's going to get out quickly, and like you said, safety. Larry's guy doesn't have to open it up. You're going to limit the liability for the insurance, and it's going to help us. Fixing it's going to be shorter term. We don't want to be in jeopardy with the state because we're not doing the right thing. I like to save lives. What if he didn't get out? Okay? Whether you buy a brand new one or you get the rebuilt one, a fire suppression system should be put on. He's operating in a bad environment. The money is well worth to be spent. Do you have any questions for me about it? I've seen it in action. I've seen a fire get put out and people didn't get hurt. And that's what you want. Thanks.
Well, I think, and we have two separate actions. If action's going to be taken, we'll do them separately.
Mayor Davis, I move we approve Resolution 19-7754, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract for replacement of landfill compactor unit number 1841 with a used replacement unit through Foley Equipment, Salina, for an amount not to exceed $365,000.
Second.
That came quickly. It's been moved and, approved. Moved and seconded to approve Resolution 19, thank you, -7754. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. And
Mayor Davis, I move that we approve Resolution 19-7755, authorizing the purchase and installation of Keller Fire Suppression Systems on replacement unit number 1841 compactor, unit number 1842 compactor, and unit number 1851 dozer in an amount not to exceed $31,878.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 19-7755. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Just want to say, you notice how quiet and reserved everyone got when you come up and say you're a 22-year veteran? It's like, no one was going to argue with you.
That's why Jim hired me.
We have no development business and any other business before our written other business.
I just want to real quickly commend Chief Royce on his commission information memorandum of this week. Specifically, it was dealing with the procedures that they have put in place for dealing with PTSD among the firefighters when they do go into some pretty stressful and often deadly situations. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Chief Royce and his department for taking mental health very seriously and for providing the kinds of support that our workers need.
Thank you. No one else? All right.
30 minutes.
Let's try 30. Sorry.
30, okay. I move that the City Commission recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss a potential claim by the city arising from the detection, isolation, and cleanup of asbestos materials in the basement and basement stairwell of Fire Station Number 2 with Special Legal Counsel Eileen Monk via telephone based upon the need for consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-7319B2. The open meeting will resume in this room at 6:04 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recess into executive session for the reasons read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We anticipate any action,
There is a possibility, so I want to keep that option open.
possibility of some action. Thank you. much. Okay, call the meeting back into regular session. As the notice did indicate, we were meeting to discuss a potential claim by the city arising from cleanup of asbestos materials in Fire Station Number 2. City Manager, want to add any?
I think
More enlightenment.
we contracted for work, removal and replacement of a boiler. We had concerns about the possible asbestos and the need for cleanup. We've done that. Everything's safe and contained, and so at this point we're talking about the costs incurred and how to proceed.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner
I'll go ahead
Hodges?
and take a stab at this. I move that we authorize Attorney Eileen Monk of Foley and Mansfield to make a demand for expenses incurred on the work performed on Fire Station Number 2 by Superior Plumbing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to, I realize I do not have that written down in front of me, so my memory will have to, could I?
Authorize
Thank you.
Eileen Monk of Foley and Mansfield to make a demand for expenses incurred for work performed on Fire Station Number 2 by Superior Plumbing.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is there any other business before adjournment?
Is there no public comment on that?
I'll look to the, okay, on advice from city attorney, not on this issue today.
And at any other point in time? Did Eileen tell you OSHA law dictates that the owner and operator of the building is responsible?
Okay, you'd have to come up to the, no, you have to, you're not on the screen until you come up here.
Chris Harpot, I'm the president of Superior Plumbing. As Eileen told you, that the owner-operator by OSHA law, which I understand is federal law, is responsible for any abatement before a job is even bid. And they're responsible for letting a bidding contractor know that that's there. They're responsible for signage that says that there's asbestos-containing material or possible asbestos-containing material. When we walk on a job, it is supposed to be clean. That is law.
Okay, that is also something which would need to be handled through legal representatives. We are not attorneys and don't try to interpret the law in that regard.
Did she tell you that the permissible exposure levels were below the requirements that require abatement, that the air samples were 0?
Ms. Monk is authorized to represent us on our behalf, and she'll get into that entire conversation when it's appropriate.
Part of this has to do with Mr. Harrison. We've met, I believe, but
We have, yes.
I'm sorry. You do have legal counsel, correct?
And that's another issue. Yes, I do, but go ahead.
Well, and that is a factor in terms of where the matter stands at this point in time. You're represented, the city is represented by Ms. Monk. The conversation, I think, best occurs between counsel.
And we've done that for months now, until we got to this point today. The only reason I got here today is because I happened to go on Salina Post and see that this was here. Mr. Schrag was supposed to alert me to when this is going to come up, and he did not.
I emailed you.
Well, I don't have it. And I will admit I had trouble with my email since Friday, so maybe you did. You emailed me 11:15 today to say I couldn't sit in on this conversation here. You did do that, but if you alerted me to
We've
this coming
traded
before the
emails
commission.
For quite a while.
What's that?
We've traded emails for quite a while.
Yeah, I didn't know it was coming before the commission today. I just happened to come across this. Another question I got, and this is off topic, but why are we sending all our tax money to Portland or to other states? The two contractors, the one that did the testing and the one that did the abatement, were from other states. We have qualified people in Wichita to do this. We have qualified attorneys. She's not informing Mr. Schrag or you of the laws, the exposure levels that were in the fire station. There's nothing that connects us to this boiler, nothing.
But we're not here to settle or discuss
You just
the
settled
case.
it. You asked her to
No, we
demand
did
payment
not.
from us.
No, that is.
Where the laws require that the owner takes care of this. I have legal fees too that I plan on asking the city for if I win this. And if we have to go to litigation, I guess we do, but
The equivalent of what we did was to ask an attorney to represent us in an action of that type. That does not guarantee any outcome on either side. So
well, it guarantees we're going to court, which means she thinks you have a case here.
well, it means that our attorney would discuss with your attorney. And I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to sound like one.
No, they've gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and she's making statements like there's asbestos where the contractor dragged the boiler out. Well, I don't know how she knows how we got the boiler out when she was in Portland.
It's not our intent or purpose, nor would it be appropriate for us to try this right here. That's the reason they're attorneys.
That's not going anywhere.
But that's still for the attorneys to decide, and then each attorney will...
So the actual federal law doesn't come into play?
All that will be in the discussion between the attorneys.
We've had that attorney with Eileen in Portland with our tax money. And she is just dead set on drawing blood from us. She has no proof, no connection to us and this boiler and this asbestos. There's asbestos in this room right now. There's no proof, nothing that connects us to this. The lab reports don't even say that there's enough asbestos to do an abatement. But yet she's doing an abatement. She's just got an open checkbook with the city of Salina's taxpayers' money. She'll call people from wherever. Go ahead, do the work, send me a bill. I'm going to jack the contractor with it.
No, I won't.
Why is that? How does she get free, open checkbook? I can't even do a service call for you guys without a quote.
Mr. Haircut, I'm not prepared to argue any of that with you, other than to assure you that that is not a factual statement. There is a process to be followed. She represents us. You have representation. You may not be satisfied with the conversation that's taking place today. We, as you and I have discussed, we've now finalized the cost, and this is the starting point for the conversation.
The attorneys have been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, spending more and more of my money, your money, everybody's money. There's not enough asbestos there for an abatement, and she's not being upfront with you guys about that.
We cannot settle this issue right here and right now.
Yes, you can. If you read the law, you go, hey, this is the law. We're responsible.
We are not experts on minutia of certain laws.
But yet you can read the law.
We hire counsel to advise us.
You'll have an opportunity, by way of your counsel, to provide all the information that you just described, and it will get considered.
You guys just can't make a decision. You know, the per capita dollars spent on legal counsel for Salina is way higher than any other city around here. Why is that? Because we can't make a common sense decision. This is the law. We should follow the law. And then we're sending that out of town.
Well, if it'll make you feel better, she does have prior.
I don't care about that. Where's she at now?
Well,
a lot of people have prior here. Why don't we send them a check?
We feel as though we're
And there's
getting
people
good
local
counsel.
here that can do the job. Why aren't we sending them a check?
All good questions, but not pertaining to this particular issue right now. I mean, that decision has already been made in this case.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn. Second.
Okay, don't want to be rude, but we've taken this as far as we can go.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges, for the animal shelter deal. You're right, there was nothing clear there. We had boring in our price, nobody else had boring. Boring's very expensive, so
Okay,
the
we
bids
have
you got are
we have a motion on
out
the
of
floor.
whack.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Do that to a guy, but he just went like that.
Yeah.